text from my sister arrived just as I stepped off the 14-hour flight from Singapore. My hands were still shaking from the sedatives I'd taken to get through Dad's funeral. Since you clearly abandoned the house, Mason and I have taken over. It needed a real family. I'm Edith, and this is how I lost everything I had left, or so they thought. The Uber driver kept glancing at me in his rearview mirror as I fought back tears, clutching my phone like it might explode. My carry-on sat heavy in my lap, still holding Dad's reading glasses and the last card he'd written me. My noble guard, he'd called me, his private joke when I'd quit my nursing job to care for him through the cancer. Miss, you sure this is your stop? The driver asked as we pulled up to my craftsman-style house. My house, the one Dad helped me renovate before the diagnosis. Yes, The words died in my throat. A pink and white floral wreath hung on my deep blue door, Nicole's signature decorating style, about as subtle as a circus tent. New security cameras blinked at me from the eaves. Even from the curb, I could see the keypad on my door had been replaced. My legs went numb as I dragged my suitcase up the familiar path. 6 months. I'd been gone 6 months to help Dad die with dignity, and my sister had somehow... The doorbell camera lit up red when I pressed it. I heard movement inside, the scrape of what used to be my grandmother's dining chairs on hardwood floors. Nicole's face appeared in the window beside the door. My baby sister, with her perfect blonde waves and Instagram-ready smile, waved at me like I was a door-to-door salesman. Then she spoke through the Ring camera. Can I help you? Nicole, what the hell? Let me in. This is my house. Actually, Mason's voice crackled through the speaker. We have documentation showing you surrendered the property. You might want to check your emails from last month. What emails? We've been trying to reach you, Nicole cut in, her voice syrupy with fake concern. But you were too busy abandoning your family responsibilities. Someone had to step up. My phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Nicole had just posted a story. There I was, red-faced and desperate on their doorbell camera, with the caption, Sad when people can't accept change. A new chapter, Charter Blessed Life. Nicole, please. I pressed my palm against the door. Everything I own is in there. Dad's things are in there. Dad's things? She laughed high and brittle. You mean our father, the one you isolated from us in his final months? Mason, call the police. She's trespassing. Already did, babe. I heard sirens in the distance. Neighbours were peering through their windows now, probably wondering why the quiet medical consultant who used to live here was having a breakdown on the front porch. You can't do this, I said, but my voice cracked. I have the deed. I have, had the deed, Mason corrected through the speaker. Check the county records, sweetheart. Things change. The police car rolled up, lights flashing. 2 officers stepped out, hands already moving to their belts. Ma'am, one called out, step away from the door. Nicole's face reappeared in the window, phone raised to capture whatever came next. I could see past her into what used to be my living room. Dad's armchair was gone. So was his bookshelf. In their place stood a giant TV and Mason's leather gaming chair. This is my house, I said again. But even I could hear how weak it sounded. The homeowners say otherwise, the officer replied, gently taking my arm. Let's talk about this down at the station. As they led me away, I heard the distinctive click of Nicole's iPhone camera. Another Instagram story in the making, no doubt. My sister turning my darkest moment into her social media victory lap. Don't worry, Nicole called after me. We'll take good care of everything you left behind. Better than you ever did. The police car door shut with a final thunk. Through the window I watched my house, my life, shrink in the distance, while my phone buzzed with notifications from Nicole's growing audience, all of them laughing at the crazy woman who thought she still had a home to return to. They had no idea what was coming. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly, including Officer Martinez's sympathetic expression as he handed back my driver's license. I understand your frustration, Miss Edith, but without current proof of residence... I pulled up my phone's banking app. Look, here are my mortgage payments, every month for 3 years. The screen went blank. What? I refreshed it. Account not found. Try calling your bank, he suggested. I did. After 30 minutes on hold and being transferred 4 times, a customer service representative informed me that my accounts had been closed 2 weeks ago. The paperwork appears to be in order, she said, signed and notarized. My signature. Forged. I need to speak with a lawyer, I told Officer Martinez. He slid me a card. Property disputes can get messy. Get legal help before confronting them again. I called Ivy the moment I left the station. We'd been friends since college before she became a probate attorney. She answered on the first ring. Where are you? She demanded. Have you seen Nicole's posts? No, Come to my office, now. Ivy's downtown office felt like a sanctuary compared to the chaos of the past few hours. She had her laptop open to Nicole's Instagram page when I walked in. Look at this, she said, turning the screen. There was my sister posing in what used to be my kitchen. New beginnings. Sometimes the universe knows what's best. A blessed, echashtar new chapter. Another photo showed Mason sprawled in Dad's favourite reading nook, now converted into a gaming corner, setting up the man cave, sorry not sorry to the previous owner. The comments were worse. So glad you rescued this place from neglect. Family first always. She didn't deserve it anyway. Can't wait to see the renovation reveals. They're rewriting history, Ivy said, typing rapidly. And they're doing it legally. Look. Public records showed my house's deed had been transferred 2 weeks ago. Utility bills redirected, mail forwarded. Even my medical consulting clients had received notices that I'd relocated abroad permanently. They've been planning this for months, Ivy said, while I was watching my father die. The words tasted like acid. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother, Layla. Nicole tells me you're causing scenes, typical. Why can't you let your sister be happy? I showed Ivy the message. Even Mom's taking their side. Your mother always did prefer the path of least resistance, Ivy muttered, still typing. Wait, what's this? She'd found something in the county records, a trust filing from 5 years ago, sealed under attorney-client privilege. Dad's lawyer, I said, recognizing the firm's name. But why would... The seal expires upon death, Ivy said, reaching for her phone. Give me an hour. While she made calls, I scrolled through more of Nicole's posts. She documented everything. My removal by police, the renovation rescue of my abandoned home, even a swipe at my career. Some people choose work over family. Their loss. A new post appeared. Shopping for new furniture. Everything here is so dated. Time for an upgrade. My grandmother's antique dresser sat by the curb in the photo's background, tagged for bulk trash pickup. That's it, I stood up. I'm going back there. Edith, wait. Ivy grabbed my arm. If you confront them now, they'll get another restraining order. We need to be smart. They're erasing me, I said, my voice breaking. Everything I am, everything Dad and I built. Then we'll get it back. Ivy's eyes narrowed at her screen. Legally, permanently. And when we do, they'll never see it coming. My phone buzzed again. Mason had tagged me in a post, the first time they'd acknowledged my existence directly. PSA, if you abandon your responsibilities, don't cry when others step up. Actions have consequences. Karma. Ivy looked up from her computer, a slow smile spreading across her face. Speaking of karma, I just got access to that trust document. And your father left you more than just memories, Edith. He left you a weapon. I leaned forward as Ivy turned her screen toward me, showing a document that would change everything. Tell me. First, she said, we need to let them think they've won. Can you do that? I thought of my grandmother's dresser on the curb, Dad's books probably already in a dumpster. 6 months of watching him fade, holding his hand, while they waited like vultures. Oh, I said. I can do that. Read it again, I whispered, staring at the trust document Ivy had pulled up on her monitor. I, Gareth, being of sound mind, hereby establish the Noble Guard Trust, naming my daughter Edith as sole beneficiary of all real property assets. This trust supersedes all previous arrangements and cannot be contested by other family members without triggering immediate forfeiture of any inheritance claims. Ivy tapped the screen. Filed 5 years ago, updated 6 months ago during your time as his caregiver. Noble Guard, I repeated, Dad's nickname for me. He knew something might happen, Ivy confirmed, and he protected you. My phone buzzed. Nicole had posted another Instagram story. Picking paint colours, goodbye dreary blue, hello sunshine yellow. They're going to try to sell it, I said. Look. A new post showed Mason talking to a realtor in my living room. The caption read, Big changes coming. Sometimes you have to know when to let go of the past. Ivy's face hardened. Let me make some calls. While she worked, I scrolled through old texts from Dad. The last one sent 3 days before he died. My noble guard, remember what matters. Some battles aren't worth fighting, but some are everything. Got it, Ivy announced. Mason called his cousin Luis yesterday about fast-tracking a sale. They're trying to flip the house before anyone can challenge their claim. Luis Ramos? My stomach turned. He was at my housewarming party 3 years ago. Well, now he's a witness claiming you verbally agreed to surrender the property. Ivy's fingers flew over her keyboard. But here's the thing, they don't know about the trust. They think they just have to beat your standard property claim. So, what's our move? First, we file an emergency injunction to block any sale. Then, Ivy paused as my phone rang. The caller ID showed my mother's number. Put it on speaker, Ivy mouthed. Hello. Edith. Layla's voice dripped disapproval. Your sister tells me you're hiring lawyers now. Haven't you caused enough drama? Mum, they stole my house. They're making use of a property you abandoned. Nicole and Mason are starting a family. They need stability. I caught Ivy rolling her eyes. A family? They're turning my house into a TikTok studio. At least they're here, Layla snapped, not running away to play nursemaid while ignoring their real responsibilities. You mean like caring for my dying father? Your father, Layla's laugh was bitter. Always your father. Well, he's gone now, isn't he? Time to let go. After she hung up, Ivy touched my shoulder. You okay? No, I showed her Nicole's newest post, a video of Mason ripping out the garden Dad and I had planted. But I will be. Ivy's printer whirred to life. Good, because we have work to do. The trust gives you full legal ownership, but we need to move fast. They're meeting a realtor tomorrow morning. How do you know that? She smiled. Because I'm the one who arranged it. Through a colleague who owes me a favour, we're going to let them dig their own grave. My phone buzzed again, a text from Mason. Be smart, Edith. Walk away now and we won't press charges for harassment. The house is ours. You lost. Ivy read the message over my shoulder. Should we show them the trust now? I thought about Dad's last months. How Nicole never visited. How Mason kept calling, asking about the will. How they waited until the funeral to make their move. No, I said. Let them think they're winning. I want to see their faces when they realise. Edith, Ivy hesitated, this could get ugly. It already is ugly. I pointed to another Instagram post, Nicole posing with my grandmother's jewellery box. They're not just taking my house. They're erasing every trace of Dad, of me, of our family's history. Then let's do this right. Ivy handed me the trust documents. Your father gave you the weapons, time to use them. I looked at the signature on the last page. Dad's final gift, not just the house, but the power to protect what mattered. Tomorrow morning, I said, let's show them what Noble Guard really means. The coffee shop across from my house gave me a perfect view of Nicole and Mason's morning routine. They'd turned my quiet home into a content creation factory, with ring lights in every window and delivery trucks bringing boxes of sponsorship products daily. "Remember," Ivy said through my earpiece, "let them think you're breaking down. Get them talking." I'd texted Nicole that morning, "Can we meet? I just want closure." She'd replied with a laughing emoji and, "Sure, sis, Starbucks at 10. Now I watched them approach, Nicole filming their walk for her Instagram stories. My hand tightened around the phone in my pocket, already recording. "Edith!" Nicole's voice carried across the cafe, perfectly pitched to draw attention. "You look tired." "Prison will do that to you," Mason smirked, settling into the chair across from me. "I wasn't in prison," I said quietly. "The police released me after we declined to press charges." Nicole stirred her sugar-free vanilla latte. "We can be generous, unlike some people." My phone kept recording in my pocket as I hunched my shoulders, playing defeated. "I just want to understand why." "Why?" Nicole leaned forward. "Because you're pathetic, Edith. Always were. Dad's perfect little martyr, sacrificing everything to care for him. He was dying. He was manipulating you like always." She rolled her eyes. "God, you never saw it. Poor Edith, so noble, so selfless." Meanwhile, Mason and I were building a real life, a social media empire. An empire built in my house. Mason laughed. "Your house? You mean the house you abandoned? The one you left to rot while you played Florence Nightingale?" "I was gone for 6 months, and we waited." Nicole's smile turned sharp. "Waited for the old man to croak, waited for you to drop everything for him one last time. You're so predictable." "You planned this." "Of course we did." Mason pulled out his phone, probably to film my reaction. "The minute your plane took off for Singapore, we started filing paperwork. Your signature's not hard to forge, by the way." In my ear, Ivy whispered, "Got it, keep them talking." "What about Dad's things?" I asked. "His books, his—" "Garbage," Nicole cut in. "Just like his precious noble guard. You know he called you that to mock you, right? Poor Edith standing guard while life passed her by." A new voice cut through the tension. "Is this seat taken?" My mother stood at our table, designer handbag clutched like a shield. "Mom!" Nicole's perfect mask slipped for a second. "What are you—" "Joining my daughters for coffee." Layla sat down, her eyes cold. "Since we're having such an honest conversation." Mason shifted uncomfortably. "Mrs. Layla, we didn't expect—" "Clearly not." She turned to me. "Your father left something for you. An envelope. It's still in the house." Nicole's coffee cup clattered. "What envelope?" "Behind the false panel in the garage." Layla's voice was flat. "The one he installed when we first bought the house, before the divorce." "Divorce?" Nicole and I spoke in unison. 5 years ago. Layla's smile was bitter. "Your father didn't tell you. He divorced me, changed his will, set up some kind of trust. All very quiet, very legal. I only found out when my alimony stopped after his death." Mason's phone had disappeared. Nicole's face had lost its Instagram-ready glow. "The envelope," I said. "What's in it?" "I don't know." Layla stood up. "But he made me swear to tell you about it." "Only you, Edith. His noble guard." She gathered her bag. "You were always his favourite. Even when he was a terrible father to both of you, you were the one he chose." She left us sitting in stunned silence. Through my earpiece, Ivy whispered, "The garage code. Do you still remember it?" I did. The same code Dad had set 15 years ago. My birthday. "Well," Mason finally said, his voice uncertain. "That was dramatic." Nicole grabbed his arm. "We need to go. Now." "Why?" I asked, letting my voice shake. "What are you afraid is in that envelope?" "Nothing," she snapped, but her hands trembled as she gathered her things. "There's nothing in that house that matters anymore." They practically ran from the cafe. Through the window I watched them hurry home, to my home, probably to tear apart the garage before I could get there. "Ivy," I whispered. "Got it all recorded," she confirmed. "Every admission of fraud. Now, about that garage." "Tonight," I said, "when they're sleeping." The game was changing, and this time I had all the pieces. 3 a.m. The streetlights cast long shadows across what used to be my driveway as I crouched beside the garage door keypad. Nicole and Mason's bedroom light had gone dark 2 hours ago after I watched them tear apart the garage in a frantic search. They'd looked everywhere except where Dad would actually hide something important. I punched in my birthday, 041590. The keypad blinked green. "I'm in," I whispered into my phone. "Be careful," Ivy replied. "If they wake up..." "They won't. Nicole takes Ambien. Always has." The garage door opened silently. At least they'd maintained the tracks I'd had installed. Dad's workbench was still there, though Mason had cluttered it with gaming equipment and streaming gear. The false panel we'd built together was hidden behind a giant monitor. I moved the screen carefully, feeling along the edge of the panel until I found the catch. It popped open with a soft click. There, wrapped in wax paper just like Dad used to wrap his important documents, was a thick envelope with "For my noble guard," written in his careful architect's script. My hands shook as I opened it. "Dear Edith," the letter began, "if you're reading this, then Layla kept her word, and you know about the divorce. What you don't know is why. 5 years ago, I discovered your mother and sister had been planning to have me declared incompetent. They wanted control of the estate before my retirement. Nicole had already contacted lawyers, with Mason's encouragement. I divorced your mother quietly and changed my will before they could act. The trust naming you as beneficiary was my insurance policy. I knew they would try something like this after I was gone. You were always the honest one, Edith. The one who stayed when it was hard, who chose right over easy. Your sister learned from your mother that love is a transaction, that family is whatever benefits you most. If Nicole fights this inheritance, then she was never truly your sister in heart. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I wasn't a better father when you were young. But I hope this final act protects you from them both. All my love, Dad." Footsteps creaked overhead. I froze. "Babe," Mason's voice drifted down. "Did you hear something?" "Probably just the cats," Nicole mumbled sleepily. I waited, barely breathing, until their door closed again. Then I photographed every page of the letter and sent them to Ivy. "Got them," she texted back. "This changes everything." A notification lit up my phone. Nicole had just posted to Instagram. At 3 a.m. "Big news. House is officially on the market. DM for serious inquiries only. Chakanu, chapter Shachia moving on." Below was a professional listing photo of my house. My home. The one Dad and I had restored together. The one he'd protected for me with his last act of love. Another text from Ivy. "Don't react. This is perfect. They just walked into our trap." I slipped the letter back into its hiding place. Let them keep searching. They'd never think to look behind their precious gaming setup. As I eased the garage door closed, another notification popped up. Nicole had tagged me in a post. Sometimes toxic people force you to make hard choices, but family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. Sorry, not sorry, sis. New beginnings. The comments were already flowing in. You're so brave. Toxic people have to go. Can't wait to see where you move next. I texted Ivy. They're trying to sell it fast. Let them try, she replied. The trust makes any sale illegal without your signature. The real one. So what's our next move? Tomorrow we become very interested buyers. I know just the realtor to help us. I took one last look at my house. at the garden Mason had destroyed, at the windows now blazing with ring lights, at the place Dad had made sure would always be mine. "One more thing," I texted Ivy. "I want to be there when they realise. I want to see their faces." "Oh, you will," she replied. "That's the best part of karma, watching it happen in real time. I walked away from my house for the last time as an outsider. Tomorrow we'd start taking it all back. And Nicole," she had no idea she'd just posted her own eviction notice. "Just follow my lead." Paige, the realtor Ivy had recruited, whispered as we walked up my front path. She'd dressed me in an expensive pantsuit and dark sunglasses, the perfect disguise for a wealthy potential buyer. Mason opened the door, his influencer husband's smile already in place. "Welcome, you must be the Owens Group." "That's right." Paige's professional mask was flawless. "My client is very interested in quick closings on premium properties." Nicole appeared behind Mason, wearing a cream designer dress that still had its tags tucked under the arm. "Come in, we've done amazing renovations." Amazing renovations meant they'd painted everything grey and white, installed LED strip lights everywhere, and turned my reading nook into a content creation corner. The house looked like a TikTok backdrop. "Tell me about the title history," Paige said, pulling out her tablet. "Clean as can be," Mason assured her. "Previous owner abandoned the property." "Abandoned?" I kept my voice carefully neutral behind my sunglasses. "That seems unusual." "Oh, it's such a sad story," Nicole gushed. "My sister, she was always unstable, you know. Ran off to Asia, left everything behind. We had to step in, save the house." "How generous of you," I murmured. "We have all the paperwork," Mason added quickly. "Transfer of deed, utility changes, everything signed and notarized." Paige made a show of examining her tablet. "I see some interesting notes in the property records. Something about a trust filing." Mason's smile flickered. That must be an old document, not relevant." "Actually," Paige continued, "it's dated quite recently, and it seems to name a different owner entirely." Nicole's perfect mask cracked. "That's impossible. We checked everything." "Did you check with Luis?" I asked, removing my sunglasses. "You're fake witness." The colour drained from both their faces. "Edith," Nicole breathed. "Surprise, sis." Mason lunged for his phone. "Get out before I call the police. Again." "Go ahead," Ivy said, walking through the still open door. "I'm sure they'd love to hear about the forged documents, the fake witness statements, the fraudulent bank transfers." "You can't prove anything," Nicole snapped, but her voice shook. "Actually," I pulled out my phone and played the coffee shop recording. Their voices filled the room. "Waited for the old man to croak. Your signature's not hard to forge. We planned this." Mason grabbed Nicole's arm. "Shut up. Don't say another word." "Too late," Ivy smiled, pulling out a thick folder. "We have everything. The trust Dad created, making Edith the sole owner, the recordings, the forged documents, even your Instagram posts admitting to the whole scheme." "No!" Nicole's perfect mask shattered completely. "No, you're lying. Mum said—" "Mum didn't know about the divorce," I cut in. "Or did she tell you about that too?" The doorbell rang. Luis Ramos stood outside, looking nervous. "Come in, Luis," Ivy called. "Ready to tell us who paid you to lie about the property transfer?" "I'm sorry, Mason," Luis said, not meeting anyone's eyes. "I can't go to jail for you, man." Mason shoved past him, running for the door, but 2 police officers were walking up the path. The same ones who'd escorted me away that first day. "Officers," Ivy said brightly. "Perfect timing. We have some evidence of fraud and forgery you might be interested in." Nicole sank onto what used to be Dad's couch, her face in her hands. "This isn't happening." "Oh, but it is," I said, pulling out Dad's letter. "Want to know the best part? Dad knew you'd try something like this. That's why he protected me. His noble guard." "You bitch," she whispered. "You always had to be the perfect daughter." "No," I corrected her. "I just had to be honest." The next hour was a blur of police statements, property forms, and Nicole's mascara-streaked threats. Mason was led out in handcuffs, still protesting that he had connections, that we'd regret this. As the police car pulled away, Ivy handed me a final document. "Ready to sign?" she asked. "This reinstates you as the legal owner, plus damages for their attempted fraud." I looked around at my house, at the tacky renovations, the ring lights, the destroyed garden. It would take time to restore it, but that's what Dad and I had always done best. "Yes," I said, taking the pen. "I'm ready." Behind me, Nicole's final Instagram story went live, a police car and a single broken heart emoji. Some things really do come full circle. The courthouse hallway buzzed with whispers as Nicole and Mason were led in separately. Mason wore an ill-fitting suit that screamed, trying to look respectable, while Nicole had gone full victim mode in a conservative black dress and minimal makeup. "Ready?" Ivy squeezed my hand. "Born ready." The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, called the hearing to order. "This is regarding case number 2847 concerning property fraud and financial misconduct." Mason's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honour, my client was acting on information he believed to be accurate, information he forged," Ivy interrupted, standing, "as evidenced by Exhibit A, falsified property transfer documents bearing my client's forged signature." The judge examined the papers. "And the audio recordings?" Ivy played the coffee shop conversation. Nicole's voice filled the courtroom. "Waited for the old man to croak." Mason's face went pale. "Furthermore," Ivy continued, "we have social media evidence of premeditation, multiple posts documenting their illegal occupation and attempted sale of the property." Nicole's lawyer jumped in. "Your Honour, my client was emotionally manipulated by her father. Actually," I stood up, pulling out Dad's letter, "I think this explains everything." The judge read it silently, her expression hardening. When she looked up, her eyes locked on Nicole. "You attempted to have your father declared incompetent for financial gain." "It wasn't like that," Nicole burst out. "He always favoured her, always. The perfect daughter, the noble caregiver. What about me?" "What about the trust?" the judge asked. "The trust is irrelevant," Mason's lawyer tried. "The trust," Ivy said firmly, "explicitly names Edith as sole beneficiary with a contest clause that triggers automatic forfeiture of any other inheritance claims. By attempting to seize and sell the property, the defendants have violated that clause." Mason stood up suddenly. "This is all Nicole's fault. She convinced me." "Sit down," his lawyer hissed. "No." Mason's composure cracked. "I'm not going to jail for her family drama. She said it would be easy money. She said Edith was too weak to fight back." Nicole spun toward him. "You lying bastard! It was your idea to forge the documents." "Order!" The judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "I've heard enough." The ruling came down like thunder. Full property rights restored to me, damages of $175,000 for attempted fraud, criminal charges for Mason for document forgery, restraining orders against both of them. Furthermore, the judge added, any proceeds from social media content created in the illegally occupied property must be surrendered. Nicole's influencer empire, built on stolen ground, collapsed with a single bang of the gavel. As bailiffs led Mason away, my mother appeared at the back of the courtroom. She'd been so quiet I hadn't noticed her arrive. "Nicole," she called out, "don't expect to come home." "Mom, the scandal," Layla said coldly. "I can't have this kind of attention. You understand." Nicole's perfect mask finally shattered completely. In that moment she looked young and lost, the little sister I used to protect from thunderstorms. "Edith," she whispered, "please." But I remembered Dad's words, if Nicole fights this, she was never truly your sister in heart. Goodbye, Nicole. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras. Nicole's social media fame had turned against her. Everyone wanted the story of the influencer fraudster. "Was it worth it?" I asked Ivy. as we watched Nicole being swarmed by former followers. All this? Ask me when we get your house back to normal, my phone buzzed. A final notification: Nicole's Instagram account had been deleted. Later that evening, I stood in my empty living room. The ring lights were gone, the grey paint would need covering, and Dad's garden would take months to restore. But under the chaos of their occupation, the bones of my home remained strong. A text from Ivy lit up my phone. Remember what your dad wrote. You chose right over easy. I walked to the window, watching the sunset paint my front yard in shades of gold. Tomorrow I'd start rebuilding. Tonight I just stood guard over what was mine, what had always been mine. Dad knew what he was doing when he named me his noble guard. Some things are worth protecting no matter the cost, and some battles are worth winning, even if victory tastes bittersweet. The floorboards creaked under my feet as I walked through each room, taking inventory of what remained and what was lost. Mason's gaming equipment still cluttered the garage, evidence tags marking each piece. Nicole's influencer setup gathered dust in the corners, waiting for police clearance to be removed. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Social media influencer faces fraud charges. Husband pleads guilty. Below was a mugshot of Mason, his carefully curated image stripped away. Need help? Ivy stood in the doorway holding coffee and cleaning supplies. Always. We worked in comfortable silence, clearing out the debris of their occupation. Under Nicole's tacky decorations, I found traces of the home Dad and I had built. Pencil marks on door frames marking my height as a kid. The subtle arch he'd added to the kitchen entrance. His initials carved tiny and secret into the basement stairs. Look at this, I called to Ivy, pulling up a loose floorboard in what used to be Nicole's content creation room. A photograph fluttered out. 2 little girls in matching sundresses, gap-toothed smiles bright in the summer sun. Nicole and me, before everything got complicated, before Mom's manipulation and Dad's distance created fault lines in our family. You okay? Ivy asked softly. The doorbell rang before I could answer. A delivery man held a large package. Sign here, he said. Been trying to deliver this for months, keep getting redirected. The return address was from Singapore. Dad's handwriting. Inside was his old drafting table, carefully disassembled and packed. A note lay on top. For my noble guard, some things are meant to be rebuilt. He shipped this before, my voice caught. Before he knew what they'd do, Ivy finished. He was making sure you'd have something to come home to. I ran my hand over the smooth wood, remembering hours spent watching him work, learning how to see the bones of things, how to make them stronger. The front door opened again. Paige the realtor walked in, followed by an older woman I didn't recognize. Sorry to interrupt, Paige said, but Mrs. Rodriguez here saw the news. She wanted to talk to you. The woman stepped forward. I was your father's client 20 years ago. He designed my first restaurant. She smiled. The one that just burned down. I'm sorry, I said automatically. Don't be. Insurance will cover it. But I need an architect who sees things the way your father did. Someone who understands how to rebuild without losing the heart of things. I looked at the drafting table, then at the photograph still in my hand. I'm not an architect. No, Mrs. Rodriguez agreed. But you're a builder. I watched you care for your father. I've seen how you fought for this house. That's the kind of person I want designing my new restaurant. I don't... Your father taught you, yes? All those years? He told me he was training his successor. I remembered Dad's patience teaching me about load-bearing walls and stress points, about how buildings were like bodies, living things that needed care and understanding. Think about it, she said, leaving her card. Some things are meant to be rebuilt. After she left, Ivy helped me carry the drafting table to Dad's old office. The room still smelled faintly of his pipe tobacco, under the chemical tang of Nicole's expensive candles. You know, Ivy said, the trust doesn't just give you the house, it gives you his whole practice, The clients, the blueprints, everything. I know. I unfolded the table's legs, feeling the familiar grain of the wood. I just never thought that you'd need it, that Nicole and Mason would make you choose between being a caregiver and being something more. I placed the old photograph on the table. 2 sisters before choices and consequences drew battle lines between them. I didn't burn the house down, I said finally. They did. All I did was sweep up the ashes and take back the keys. And now, I opened Dad's old drafting drawer, breathing in decades of dreams and designs. Now I build something new. The setting sun painted the office walls gold, just like it used to when Dad worked late. Outside, the ruined garden waited for spring. Inside, his drafting table stood ready. Some things burn down, some things get stolen, but the things that matter, those we rebuild, stronger this time, better, just like he taught me.